No, we got
What?
a fucking thing chasing us. Look, he's swimming. Look behind us. He's swimming.
It's supposed to swimming. So do your thing.
Ow!
So,
Fuck!
so.
He's on fire.
I'm sorry. I didn't see that going that way. It's okay. It didn't even do that much damage.
Damn, what the hell? Hold on. I don't want to turn that down, but I have to. Man. Incredible. Okay, let's make that stop shaking real quick. I think that should be fun. Alright. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of The Mind of Mando. How's everybody doing today? I hope you guys are doing really great, wonderful, amazing. God, man, it sounds sick, huh? Okay, so let me catch you up on a couple things real quick. So far, great week. I believe I mentioned this in the last episode. This is actually the first legitimate time that I actually took PTO from my job to have my own little vacation. It's a staycation, but you know, just needed a break from work for an entire week. And oh my god, let me tell you, it's probably one of the best decisions I've ever made. Everything else that allowed me to visit back home, or how do you call it, or just be off of work for a week, it was either when I was between jobs, or how do you call it, or I had to take PTO in order to do stuff that I needed to do. Other than that, first time actually using PTO as a form of vacation. So pretty stoked about that and everything. And it's actually really good because, well, originally I wanted 2 weeks, you know. I wanted 2 weeks off, but then it's just like this job doesn't offer as much PTO as one of my previous places of employment, and I decided I should probably use it sparingly, which is good because, like, if I want to go visit my buddy up where he lives, or go back home, or go to a different country with my lady, I have hours to do so instead of like having to rebuild it all up again and everything. So I'm pretty good for 1 week. I'm gonna see how I feel with 1 week out of work, and if that's enough for me, then cool. I don't need much. It's actually helped me with a lot of things. It's actually, I mean, it's only Tuesday as I'm recording this. I've only had to, yeah, it's only Tuesday, and it's actually helped me with, like, you know, I mean, it helps that it's very sunny and blue skies, no signs of clouds except like very faint clouds off in the distance out east. The sun is shining. I mean, the leaves would be green, but you know, the trees don't have leaves on them right now. But it's just beautiful, you know, and it's allowed me to really reflect on things and just just see where I'm at in life, what I'm doing, what I would like to do, and what steps am I taking right now in order to not only achieve happiness, but also be where I want to be in life. And it's like, honestly, I'm glad I took this week off. Even the first 3 days, well, Thursday and Friday can be for my lady, but the first 3 days, which is yesterday, today, and tomorrow, it's for me. Mainly, it's for me. And And yeah, I'm just glad I took it off. So from here on out, I'm just gonna try and take little breaks here and there, just to like catch up on what I want to do. I want to apologize for last episode, mainly because I don't know if you guys noticed it, but I noticed it a lot while I was editing the video. I kept hearing from time to time this constant thudding noise, just thud, 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 thud. It was more amplified with my headset on while I was editing, but you can still notice it if you're just using earpieces, but not so much as if you were using headphones with heavy bass. But basically, what I found out is, one, this table, it's not like a sturdy wooden table, you know. You move it side to side a little bit, it's gonna shake. But also my podcast arm, it moves from side to side, and this being a condenser mic, like a good blue Ember condenser mic, it picks up a lot of noise, and one of the noises is the podcast alarm. It's cheap. The podcast alarm cost me like $20, maybe even less, and it came with all this stuff. It just picks up all the thudding, and that's what that constant thudding. Because if you guys recall, I was typing stuff last night. I was using my last episode, and I was using my computer and everything like that, and I didn't even notice that the mic was moving with the podcast arm until I started editing, and I figured that's what it was. And then today I just tested it out, and I'm like, yeah. So what I'm doing this episode is I'm not touching the table. I pre-prepared everything that I wanted to speak about, and honestly, it's like the only time I'm going to be using the computer is just to maneuver my mouse in order to click where I want to click. So hopefully this episode, we'll aim for no, but hopefully the little thudding noise is kept to a minimum. Hope you guys are kind of enjoying the music in the background. It's just the metalcore instrumentals turned down a little bit more, because like I like it, but it gets kind of distracting. So anyways, what was I going to talk about today? Oh yeah, I wanted to address a correction from last episode. Last episode, when I was talking about 6ix9ine getting jumped and everything like that, and just on that topic of how could a gang allow someone like him into their ranks and everything, I was talking about his form, his boxing form, hitting I don't know, the bag and everything. I meant to put a video there because I was watching it on my computer while I was explaining everything. I meant to put a video there, and I completely forgot to, so I just sounded really stupid. So here it is. That's embarrassing. Like, come on, I've seen beginner boxers. Like someone taking boxing for like 2 weeks to a month would do better. You know how I know? Because check this video out.
That's right, Marco. Whoa! Hey, let him get up! Let him get up, dog! Let him get up!
Let's run this bitch, dog!
Hell yeah!
You wanna see me, homie? What's up, fool? Let's run this bitch!
Hell yeah! Hell yeah! Hell yeah! Hell yeah!
What's up, homie?
Hell yeah! Hell yeah!
Yeah, it's yeah, come on. This fool gives 6ix9ine a run for his money. So that was really about it. But apparently this fool came out with a new song and music video that came out like what, a day ago, 2 days ago or something like that. It was after he got jumped and came out of the hospital. And what it is, the video takes a place in Cuba, because he did behind the scenes type of deal, explaining that he was in Cuba shooting the video. And so he was in Cuba, and what the video shows is like the citizens of Cuba, you know, and he's like giving them money and helping them out, and you know, this sad, soft, raspy sang voice. He's singing in Spanish that entire video and everything, and he's just basically like, you know, talking about how he grew up and you know, just the love of life, this and that. It's like, damn, that ass kicking must have really humbled him, because compare this video.
Pop these niggas like a willy nigga. You a silly nigga in the hole with them Billy niggas and them Hoover niggas. You run up and they shooting niggas. We ain't hooping nigga. No KB, you a loser nigga. Off that Uzi nigga. On the stoop, cribs in my Georgia girl on my phone. She wanna fuck but keep it clothes on. I only want the joke. Man, that's really all I use it for. The kick out the door. I don't want it, you can keep the horse. She feeding for some more.
To this video.
Cuando no había carro caminaba. Antes me sentía el dueño de todo. Ahora soy el mismo bobo con dinero y fama. Ahora me miran los que ayer no me miraban. Ahora me tiran los mismos que me ignoraban. Antes perdía, nunca ganaba. Y ahora en este juego soy la ficha que faltaba. Pero mi padre a mí me cuida desde arriba. Y por el buen camino él me guía. Y yo solo le pido que me dé salud y bendición pa' mi familia.
Yeah, and that was after the ass kicking. So, but like, what the craziest parts I was reading the comments. The comments were saying things like, they were like, "Oh my God, he's still caring. 6ix9ine didn't deserve what happened to him in the bathroom. He'll bounce back. We love him. Oh my God, he's such an amazing human being. 6ix9ine. Oh, this, that." And when I was reading that, I couldn't help but to think, did everyone forget that he was facing 45 years to life for drug trafficking, attempted murder, and armed robbery? Did everybody just forget that? Like, those were legit charges. He was given those charges for a reason. And I mean, like, they're like, well, you know, he didn't get convicted, so who knows? Maybe he didn't really do that. I'm like, yeah, but look at everything. Look at all the situations leading up to him. This fool hanging out with Bloods, this fool claiming Bloods, this fool talking about shooting people, killing people, all this stuff. Typical gangsta rap MO, you know? And it's like, and then he was facing like he was charged with the things he was rapping about. It's like, do you think that's weird? It's like country singers singing about their trucks. I love my truck and everything. And it's just like, would you really be surprised if this fool singing about how he loves his truck, owning a truck? No, you wouldn't be surprised with that. So why are you surprised with some fool claiming the Blood Gang, singing about how he like would just air a place out, just cap some fool and everything, being charged with that exact thing? It's like, come on. It's like, I believe it, but it's like the only reason he never went to prison, never got sentenced for anywhere that long, was because this fool decided to work with the cops, decided to work with law enforcement, bring down his former homies, his former gang members and everything, and now they're facing his sentence, while he only had to serve 11 more months, and then he was free for, 5-year monitor probation. But still, it's like, bruh, it's like, oh my God, we love him. He's such a great human being. I don't think the people he was robbing with a gun or knife and people he tried to kill would agree to that. But, you know, whatever. Let him sing in Spanish once while giving Cubans a few dollars, and now he's a saint. Holy crap, dude. I don't know. Maybe this is a new leaf. Starting over a new leaf. I don't know. But yeah, it's ridiculous, you know. But, you know, at least the guys he jumped him are now in jail. So, oh man. Well, anyways, there was a couple things I wanted to talk about last episode, but you know, I was running out of time, running out of battery, and everything like that. So, I decided to talk about it today. And my first topic is going to be about the Taliban. Yes, that Taliban from the Middle East. So, you know, just a little brief history. You know, the USA has been at war in the Middle East since the first Gulf War in 1991 due to Saddam Hussein, who was the then dictator in Iraq, for him invading Kuwait and everything. So, you know, I think it was Operation Desert Storm. So since 1991. Well, 10 years later, 2001, we all know what happened in 2001. In New York, the Twin Towers, a terrorist attack, just 2 hijacked planes flying straight into that building one New York morning. Everybody who had reported to work, who were unlucky enough to be in that area in general, but especially in those towers, thousands of people ended up perishing. It was a terrible sight to see. People waving, freaking out from the top floors, to the point where people were like, I'd rather die in my own terms than burn alive up here. And that's when you saw people just jumping straight out of the building. It was a very dark time, very dark moment. If you guys want to let me know what you guys were doing that day. But for me, how old was I? I was 7. I was 7 years old when that happened. Even though I don't remember everything that happened that day 100%, because come on, that was 22 years ago. I do remember this. I remember waking up because my mother would wake me and my sister up to get ready to go to school, and she would make us a quick breakfast every morning. We were lucky. We actually lived, how do you call it, on the same block as my school, you know. For some weird reason, I was always late. but what do you call it? We woke up, brushed our teeth, got dressed and everything, and my mom was outside in the living room, TV on, making us a quick breakfast and stuff. And we sat down, and I remember her just eyes fixed on the TV. And my sister and I went out there to get like our cereal. I think we were eating. We ended up just watching TV, and all we were seeing was the towers up in smoke and people screaming, and just every channel was just reporting on what was happening in New York that morning. It was crazy. It was, I understood what was happening, but being how old I was and not that experienced with the world, it didn't really impact me the way it would have impacted somebody who was, you know, already grown at that point. I knew it was bad, but I didn't really realize how bad it was. But anyways, my mom was watching that, and she was just like in shock. She was giving us our breakfast. We were watching that while eating breakfast before school. And then like finally my mom turned off the TV, and she was like, come on, I'm taking you guys to school. We walk up the hill to the other side of our block, and one of our groundskeepers, his name was Ramon. I miss that guy. I wonder whatever happened to him. He was always cool to us. We saw him outside just staring at the sky and everything. And he sees us walking up with my mom and everything. And he says to us like, hey, good morning. Hey guys, just want to let you know that we won't have school today. So just go ahead and go home and everything. I think it had to do with like them believing that, because I didn't know this, and I didn't know this until I was already grown when I was relooking in the events of 9/11. There was 4 planes that were hijacked, according to the reports, and 2 of them hit the towers, and one of them hit the Pentagon, and the other one was missing. And I guess at that point it wasn't really reported where the other ones went to. So as far as I understood, a lot of people who went to school, who were going to school at that point, school was canceled. All of them, for whatever reasons. I know the reason for mine was thinking that the plane could be anywhere. It could probably crash here, and if it crashes in the school, all these kids are gonna die. So they wouldn't let us, you know, go to school that day. So my mom ended up having to call off of work and staying with us at home and everything. So yeah, 7 years old. 7 years old it happened. And yeah, it was insane. Well, anyways, that happened in 2001. 10 years later, after, you know, the first Operation Desert Storm in 1991. Where was I? Holy crap. Here we go. Well, there was a lot of conspiracies behind what was happening. what people are saying, the general thing of everything is it was a terrorist attack against the U.S. by the Taliban, I believe, or Al Qaeda. Osama bin Laden was behind it. They wanted to terrorize the U.S. and what do you call it? Yeah, they wanted to terrorize the U.S. So since it was an act of war, then President George Bush declared that we needed to go to the Middle East to fight against them, because they also had weapons of mass destruction, even though I think later on that was proven to be a lie. So other people were saying it was just so we had an excuse to go to the Middle East and get oil. But one thing's for sure, when those attacks happened, that was a huge spike of Americans enlisting into the military in order to be sent out to the Middle East to avenge their fallen fellow Americans who were victims of that attack that morning in September 11th. So, yeah, and that's when the war in Afghanistan started. Oh, snap. Sorry if I move the mic again. I hate it when it does that. So, yeah, that's when the war in Afghanistan started. Okay, that war lasted until 2021. 20 years. That war between U.S. troops and Al Qaeda and Taliban and ISIS lasted for 20 years before now President Biden declared that all American troops needed to be pulled out of the Middle East and brought back home to the U.S., leaving behind all these weapons and gear, which I thought was absolutely ridiculous. So now, like, they just armed themselves with American weapons. So he pulled them out. To this day, although it's only been 2 years, it's the longest war that the United States has ever been part of. The longest war in U.S. history. It's crazy to think about that and everything. So now that that's over, now that the U.S. troops are out of Afghanistan, out of the Middle East and everything, what do you think happened in Afghanistan? Well, the Taliban took over. The people that the U.S. troops have been fighting against in all these years, the Taliban have taken over. They ceased control and power over the former Afghanistan police force, and they have taken over. They ended up, the Taliban had ended up, like I said, taking away power from the former police force. Jesus Christ, I can't speak. And ended up having to make their own laws and beginning their own police force. And at first, along with anything that barely begins, it wasn't so organized. Checkpoints had to be placed, protocols had to be made, and uniforms didn't always match. At the beginning, you see that they were wearing civilian clothing and former uniforms of the former police force. Well, now they have actually declared that casual clothes and old uniforms isn't right to wear from what is now a new form of law and order.
Before, when the Mujahideen were standing in checkpoints, they were looking like ordinary people, but with this new uniform, they look much better, and people seem to be very happy.
Now that the Taliban went from insurgent fighters to what is now civilian work, with rules and regulations, what about their former comrades who didn't buy into this new type of work environment? What did they end up doing?
As the Taliban's grip on Afghanistan only tightens, the former insurgents, now turned rulers, have to figure out how to serve and protect in cities and towns they used to attack.
This is the new face of policing in the Taliban's Afghanistan. Former insurgents turned police officers whose job now is to serve and protect. Most have traded in the traditional clothing they once wore on the battlefield for these new fitted uniforms and caps. But it's going to take a lot more than uniforms to turn former Taliban fighters into officers of the law. We went on a ride-along with these recruits who confessed they aren't finding their new jobs easy.
As the Taliban tries to remake its fighters into a professional police force, it's facing its own challenge from the Afghan affiliate of ISIS, known as ISIS-K.
According to the UN's mission in Afghanistan, this past month is the deadliest the country has seen since the Taliban's takeover 1 year ago. Just last week, a suicide bombing at this mosque in Kabul killed 21 people, including the imam. Although no group has yet claimed responsibility, it follows a similar pattern, including an attack a week earlier claimed by ISIS-K, which killed another high-profile cleric who had close ties to the Taliban. ISIS-K first emerged in 2015. It's linked to the original Islamic State branch in Iraq and Syria, but is made up mainly of defectors from the Afghan and Pakistani Taliban who don't see those groups as extreme enough. Last year, in the final days of the US's chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan, a lone suicide bomber detonated a device that killed 13 US service members and at least 170 Afghans at Kabul airport, an attack claimed by ISIS-K. The UN says ISIS-K has now expanded into almost all of Afghanistan's provinces. Khalid Zadran, who fought for years as an insurgent, is now the main spokesman for the Taliban's Kabul police.
The Afghan affiliate of ISIS, known as ISIS-K, must be a concern for you, though.
No, because they don't pose a significant threat in that they cannot take over our country, he says. But they do target innocent people, and we will try to prevent such attacks to keep our country safe.
So now they're fighting within themselves. It's just like, it's pretty crazy to see. Former allies now against one another due to branching out to different methods of thinking and different goals for their country. But it happens to nearly everyone. The USA, for example, after only 85 years of declaring their independence from the British Empire, had differences of opinions of how the USA should run, which led them to begin a civil war between the North and the South, which lasted like 3 days shy of 4 years. From 1861 to 1865. By this, how do you call it? But this is the only thing that we're only seeing this. We're only talking about this because this is what the media is currently showing us right now. They're showing us that now, without American intervention and everything, they're all like, look at the Taliban, look at the people in the Middle East the US was fighting against. They're having problems, they're having troubles, they're fighting amongst themselves, they're still not safe themselves. They have split up from I think it's called ISIS-K, yeah, right, yeah, and what the Taliban is now, which is supposed to be an organized police force, new uniforms, new protocols, new laws, etc., 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 and just trying to be public servants for the people in Afghanistan and all that stuff. But they're still fighting, there's still death, destruction, murder, etc., etc., within themselves. And That's until now, when this article decided to come out. So this article, what is it from? It's from Time magazine. Headline: Taliban militants fed up with office culture were ready to quiet quit. Almost 2 years after the Taliban's takeover of Afghanistan, the jihadists who transitioned from the battlefields to paper-pushing government jobs in the city are ready to quiet quit. Holy crap. So, a 20-year war didn't crush their spirits, their goal-motivated spirits. Just 2 years of paperwork did. Article continues. The Afghanistan Analyst Network, a nonprofit policy research organization working to increase the understanding of life in Afghanistan, released a report last month examining how the jihadists who took over Kabul, many of whom arrived in the capital for the first time, were finding city life and their new roles. Researcher Sabawoon Samim interviewed 5 jihadists who had spent several years of their lives fighting for the Taliban. They ranged in age from 24 to 32 and had spent between 6 and 11 years in the Taliban. At different ranks, a Taliban commander, a sniper, a deputy commander, and 2 fighters. Samim wrote in this report, broadly speaking, all of our interviewees preferred their time as fighters in what they considered a jihad. Now, the men find themselves shackled with the bureaucracy of running a country as they work civilian jobs and security positions, spend too much time in traffic and on Twitter, and yearn for the tranquility of village life. Holy crap. Holy crap. Hold on. Let me drink some water because I'm about to talk a good amount. You know what's funny? You compare what's being written right now about how the Taliban fighters are adjusting now from going out fighting in the battlefield to having to adjust to civilian type of work, paperwork, I'm assuming companies, and just everything, report writing especially. Jesus Christ, report writing. And they just sound like Americans. They just sound like U.S. citizens. It's like, especially this part where it says, now the men find themselves shackled with the bureaucracy of running a country as they work civilian jobs and security positions, spends too much time in traffic and on Twitter. Dude, that's what happens here. It's like what the shift to working within government structures has forced them to adhere to official rules and laws they never faced before. Whoa, what? You're telling me that they used to have all this freedom and they were perfectly fine being in war and killing people and everything, but then now that they got what they wanted and now they have to actually restrain themselves into law and order, they're all like, dude, this sucks. It's like, this sucks. And it's like, I mean, I get it. Because in the U.S. military, when you serve for all the years you serve and do all the things you've had to do, I've met many people who were in the military who, when they were getting out, they had to take a course in order to help them learn and integrate their mentality and way of being to the civilian world. Because as everybody knows, the military is very structured, very organized, and you have to do what you're trained to do. You have a standard, a very high standard you have to maintain through your entire time in there. And that's something that gets hammered into you until it becomes part of your everyday routine where you start doing it and don't even think about it. So it's like, yeah, so that doesn't really vibe with the everyday man out in the civilian world. So it's like, that's why they have to take courses like that. And it's like, this is what's literally happening to them right now. They were so used to being in ranks, having roles, doing what they needed to do, that now that they can't do any of that anymore because now they're supposed to be a civilized society, at least trying to, they hate it because they realize this sucks. It's boring. So let me continue in. Yeah. It says they find clocking in for office work tedious and almost unbearable, although some said they are now getting used to the routine. That's every day. That's you wake up to sit in traffic, go to work, clock in, do your job, and then clock out and go home to like eat dinner and sleep and do it all over again the next day. That's literally what they're doing right now. It says here, we couldn't destroy the Taliban, but office work destroyed the Taliban, said one TikToker. Oh my God. And it says here various reasons as to why interviewees are fed up with a 9 to 5. A 9 to 5. Holy crap. Mundane office cultures. I don't know if I'm going to read this whole thing, but maybe I will. I don't know. It says the former fighters found themselves missing the freedom of the front lines as they adjusted to the mundane nature of office work. Husaifa, a 24-year-old former sniper, said, the Taliban used to be free of restrictions. But now we sit in one place, behind a desk and a computer 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Life's become so wearisome. You do the same things every day. Bruh. Bruh. Why do you think that I took a week off from work? Because crap like that is boring. It's like you don't do anything. You just sit there in one place behind a desk and a computer for, well, he says 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I don't know how it works over there. Because of course it's not that's not the States, so I don't know what their working laws are, although I feel like they're gonna establish some at some point. But it's just like that's literally what we do. It's literally what everybody does. If you want to run a structured government, if you want to run something that's organized, that has protocols, that has, you know, rules of engagement, whatever, something that's just structured, it's gonna involve a lot of work, and a lot of that work is gonna be boring. It's gonna suck. So of course you won't want to do it, because it's the same crap every day, day after day after day after day. There's not gonna be any variations, none at all. And that's just how it is. That's just how it works. I mean, like that's what happens when you want to rule yourself. You got to be willing and ready to do the jobs that are mainly going to be boring. And it's going to suck for the people who yearn for excitement, for engagement and everything. I mean, like, I'm not calling myself a freedom fighter. I'm just saying, for me, it's when I used to do the work I used to do back then, I used to wear a uniform, I used to wear a duty belt, I used to go hands-on with people, I used to arrest people. It used to be fun. It used to just bring my adrenaline up, my heart pumping and everything, my blood flowing, and it made me excited to go to work. But now that I'm working the job I'm working now, which is just walk the same route every day, be behind a desk on a computer looking at cameras, it's boring and it sucks. And everybody faces that. Everybody. Article continues. In our ministry, there's little work for me to do, says Abdul Nafi 25. Therefore, I spend most of my time on Twitter. We're connected to speedy Wi-Fi and internet. Many Mujahideen? Is that how you say Mujahideen? Yeah, including me, are addicted to the internet, especially Twitter. I don't use Twitter. I always thought that was stupid. I have a Twitter, but I don't use it. It's dumb. And when the 9 to 5 comes, the dreaded commute and actually having to show up for the job in order to get paid. What I don't like about Kabul is its ever-increasing traffic holdups, Omar Mansour 32 said. These days, you have to go to the office before 8 a.m. and stay there until 4 p.m. If you don't go, you're considered absent, and the wage for that day is cut from your salary. We're now used to that, but it was especially difficult in the first 2 or 3 months. Welcome to the working world. Welcome to a world filled with structure. This is what you wanted. This is what people always want their freedom. They want to control themselves, and when they finally do that, they realize it's not just all explosions and gunfire. It's you sitting down doing the same crap over and over again. And this is what the Taliban are experiencing. It's like, oh my god, this sucks. I have to work on the computer. I have to do paperwork. I have to sit in traffic. If I don't go to work, I don't get paid for that day. Yeah, you're right. Added responsibilities. Government work has come with pressures and responsibilities the men did not prepare for or particularly want. In the time of jihad, life was very simple. All we had to deal with was making plans for the Tarus, is that how you say it? Attacks against the enemy and for retreating, said Husaifa. People didn't expect much from us, and we had little responsibility towards them. Whereas now, if someone is hungry, he deems us directly responsible for that. Oh no! We have to make sure they're fed. Abdul Salam 26 says, whatever happens in Afghanistan, people blame us. Even a minor misdeed by us makes it to the media that the Taliban are doing this and that. It's like the cameras of the entire world are watching us. Whoa, what? You screw up and people aren't happy? The people you're in charge of taking care of get mad when you don't do what's right? Where is that happening? That happens everywhere. That happens everywhere. Like, I don't know. I'm reading this article more and more, and I'm just laughing more and more because it's just like, yeah, it's like, I get it. You're not used to that. I get it. But in the other hand, it's like, you're telling this to people who have literally grown up this way their entire lives, that this was the way of life for freaking decades on decades on decades and everything. It's just like, what? Yeah. Article continues. Abdul Salam. Wait. No, we already did that. Okay. Next reason they don't like it. Lack of social lives. I'm sorry about the train passing by. I will open my window. I needed airflow. Lack of social lives. Work has heavily cut into their social lives too. Those in Kabul, like me, work from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. So most of the week we don't get any time to meet each other, said Mansour. Oh my god. Work takes over your daily lives? Yeah, I know. The camaraderie amongst fighters has dwindled, the jihadists say, as previously non-existent hierarchies are now far more apparent, and many around them get swept up in the pursuit of money. Corruption? What, you're telling me that people in charge care more about money than camaraderie with their employees or fellow man? Huh. Sounds a little... For what? For money, right? To gain financially and in status. Sounds a lot like capitalism to me. Isn't that what they were against? I don't know. I sometimes miss the jihad life for all the good things it had, said Nafi. During jihad, you couldn't have known the difference between a commander and a foot soldier like me. Jesus Christ. Kamran, 27-year-old deputy group commander, longs for the simple life. Now, when someone's nominated for a government job, he first asks whether that position has a car or not. We used to live among the people. Many of us have now caged ourselves in our offices and palaces. That's just the life. That's just how it is. You know? Like, look, that happens a lot here in the States, dude. I don't know how long my podcast arm has been jiggling or anything. That happens all the time in the States. You move up in whatever company you are, especially if it's a very prestigious company. The higher you move up, the more perks and benefits you get, the more things that would be available to you. You move up far enough, higher up enough in the right job, you're gonna get your own own car. You're gonna get your own office. You're gonna get your own high class apartment. Some jobs actually do that to you. They pay for your cost of living. You can get the nicest stuff, live in the nicest places with the nicest view, and your company is gonna pay for it because you're a higher position for them. And it's just that just shows you how long it's been since they've ever. I don't know how it was before then, because like I said, when they went to war in 2001, I was only 7, so I don't have many memories before that. But it's just like I feel like this is the first time in, well, at least this newer generation, because you could see like all these people that they're talking to, they're like 27. They're how old was the other one? 25, 24, 26. It's like they're just 2 years younger than I am, 3 years younger than I am, and everything. The youngest one was 24, so like 5 years younger than me. They were 2 years old when 9/11 happened. Of course, they're not going to know how actual structurally run government jobs are going to entail, how they're going to work, and how boring they're going to be, because they've grown up in a life of fighting in the front lines, just having camaraderie and you know, everybody treated as an equal. Now that structure has been introduced because they gained independence, they don't like it. But it's like, damn. It's like, you guys hated the United States so much, you actually became it. So, to an extent. Okay. Next reason why they don't like it. This is going to be the last one. Low pay, high cost of living. Wow. You are preaching to the choir. During the insurgency, Samim notes that the men did not need to earn money to support their families, as the movement covered their expenses. The jihad, a religious duty which exempted them from such everyday concerns, is over. They now have to work for the survival of their families like everyone else. The high cost of rent and his relative low pay has been a barrier for Mansour, who is not earning enough money to move his family to the city. Salam echoed the high cost of living in Kabul and said that he missed the freedom of the jihad with little supervision and a clear purpose. There's a proverb in our area that money is like a shackle, says Salam. Now if we complain or don't come to work or disobey the rules, they cut our salary. Okay. I mean, like, dude, you're literally telling people who have been living this their entire lives. It's like, granted, everybody has their own experiences, but now you hit that point in your life where you experience what the everyday man around the world experiences, and it's ridiculous. It's funny. It's funny because it's just like, dude, like, it shows you that in the end of the day, no matter what you've been told about a certain group of people, they're terrorists, they're evil, they don't care about you or your family, yada yada and everything. And I'm sure they were told the same exact thing about US troops. It's things like this, is insight like this, that shows you that they're just humans. They're human beings like everybody else. Not excusing what they did, I'm just saying in the end of the day, they're also feeling the way we feel when we work a job that's mundane, a job that's repetitive, that's all over unrewarding. We feel bored. We feel like, damn, this is it? This is what we wanted? And it sucks. But it's funny to see that, because like they went from bombings and shootings and ambushes to just being like, damn, I hate Mondays. Oh man, that's funny. But yeah, so all in all, I mean, news around the world interests me, and more so now that I'm growing older and everything, just seeing how the rest of the world is running and what other people are experiencing and everything. And like I said, it just really interests me. And that's why we're gonna go to our next topic now. The topic about the Taliban is over. So our next topic, let's see, where was it? Here. I don't know how long this one's gonna be, but we'll talk about it more. So right here, when we think of dictators, who do we think of? The word dictators. Probably we think about Stalin, Hitler, Saddam Hussein, Mussolini, Idi Amin, etc., etc., etc. All these men who were dictators in their countries did horrible things. Horrible things. Absolutely terrible. There's not one person that you would ask today in the modern world who will justify those dictators' actions one bit. Like even there's Russians in Russia who are opposed against Russia going into Ukraine. You have Americans who oppose American troops going to a different country. You have everybody from all these countries who have opinions, not supportive ones, against their own government, against their own country for doing certain things. That's just the way of life. And of course, like I said, you're going to look at people from those countries that those dictators once were in, and not every one of them are going to agree. And yeah. Well, anyways, what if I told you that there if you heard about a dictator being called the coolest dictator today, the coolest dictator today, who do you think that is? Who do you think would be called the coolest dictator who's alive right now at this very second? Well, let me introduce you to the 43rd president of El Salvador, Nayib Armando Bukele Ortiz, or President Bukele for short. He was elected into office on the 1st of June, 2019. Why is this fool the coolest dictator ever? Because his beard, his slick back hair, huh? Because he's fit and everything, or anything? What? Why do you think he's like the coolest dictator? Well, like I said, he's the 43rd president of El Salvador. He was elected in 1st of June 2019. But what makes him like almost not arguably the coolest dictator ever, it's because of this.
La Policía Nacional Civil contabilizó 87 muertes en 3 días.
La jornada más sangrienta en el país en su historia reciente.
Declárese en todo el territorio nacional régimen de excepción.
Con 13 diputados ausentes y 67 votos a favor, queda aprobado el proyecto de decreto que contiene régimen de excepción.
Por ahí andan rumores que quieren empezarse a vengar de la gente honrada, al azar. Hagan eso y no va a haber un tiempo de comida en las cárceles. 1. A ver cuánto tiempo duran sus homeboys allá adentro. Y no me importa lo que digan los organismos internacionales, que vengan a proteger a nuestra gente. Que vengan a llevarse a sus pandilleros. Si tanto los quieren, se los entregamos todos al 2x1. ¿De dónde les nació ese amor repentino por El Salvador? Si hasta hace poco no sabían a dónde quedaba en el mapa. Arena, el FMLN, reclutaban niños para mandarlos a matar. Nosotros les damos computadoras y laptops. Ellos los reclutaban para mandarlos a matar. ¿A dónde estaban? El Salvador es un país libre, soberano e independiente. Tomamos nuestras propias decisiones. Ahora las prisiones ya no son los cuarteles generales de las pandillas. Ya no hay fiestas, drogas, grafitis, prostitutas, ni salen órdenes para matar. Si fuera un maquillaje de cifras, las cifras estuvieran bien, pero la realidad dijera otra cosa. La cifra dijera 0 homicidios, pero estuvieran los cadáveres en el suelo como estaban antes. Las cifras dijeran, ha bajado la extorsión, pero a usted lo siguieran extorsionando como lo extorsionaban antes. Las cifras dijeran, se han capturado a los pandilleros, pero los pandilleros seguirían en su colonia como estaban antes. La dirección de centros penales sacó a los reos, a los presos, para que fueran a destruir las tumbas de los pandilleros. Pero inmediatamente saltaron algunas organizaciones internacionales y de derechos humanos que por qué estábamos violando los derechos de los pandilleros muertos y de los familiares. Nosotros no estamos prohibiendo que los pandilleros tengan tumba. Lo que estamos prohibiendo es que la tumba diga Mara Salvatrucha o que diga Pandilla Barrio 18. Simple y sencillamente porque en El Salvador están prohibidos esos símbolos. Llevamos 8 meses en esta guerra contra las pandillas y gracias a Dios la estamos ganando. Es por eso queremos lanzar este día la fase 5 del Plan Control Territorial. Va a tener 2 elementos. El elemento de extracción, que es el que está diseñado desde hace más de 3 años, pero también el elemento nuevo, que es el de cercar grandes áreas mientras se hacen los proyectos de extracción de delincuentes. Creo que no hay duda del éxito del Plan Control Territorial y del éxito de la guerra contra las pandillas y de las medidas que hemos tomado, incluyendo el régimen de excepción. El proyecto gubernamental más aprobado en el mundo, porque aquí hay autodeterminación de los pueblos, hay soberanía y hay independencia. Y gracias a ustedes, que han sido instrumento de Dios para lograr esto. 31 años después de los falsos acuerdos de paz, al fin nuestro pueblo vive una verdadera paz.
Los terroristas que van a estar acá son aquellos perfilados de alto rango dentro de la pandilla. Creo que entre a este centro no va a volver a salir. Y es que todo este centro de confinamiento mantiene el régimen que es de máxima seguridad. Es el régimen más alto, señor presidente, a nivel internacional.
Gang members running around
This dude is literally doing the crap that other leaders or even other citizens of different countries are saying should be done. This dude was so tired of what was happening in his country in which he was born and raised in that he became president. And in March 2022, following a sudden spike in violence, Nayib Bukele declared open war on a country's criminals gangs, the MS-13s plus others and everything. Bukele and his allies quickly established a state of exception, allowing law enforcement agencies and courts to bypass due process, which guarantees other constitutional protections. This fool was like, all right, you want to be a gang? You want to be in a gang? You want to hurt innocents? All right, cool. Your rights are gone. That's it. it's and how do you think that went? Like, how do you think that went? You know how it went? I'll tell you exactly how it went. This fool organized his police force, organized his military, or I'm sorry, I hate moving this mic, I'm sorry. Organized all of that. And he was like, all right, well, we're waging war against gangs. And he literally was just like, you guys have no rights. So he started kicking in doors and doing random checkpoints and everything. And they were arresting anybody they even suspected in being a gang. But how can they do that? How can they do that? Of course, there's articles and everything about people being like, oh, his new policies are throwing innocent people in prisons and they're staying there forever, this and that. Because that is one thing that President Nayib Bukele said that he was going to do. He was like, once we arrest gang members, they're never going to see the light of day again.
In this San Salvador prison, a humiliating spectacle forced on hundreds of gang members who are now inmates. Their heads shaven and forced to run half naked before the cameras, these men are getting a taste of what their president warns could be even worse treatment. More than 1,000 members of what are arguably the world's deadliest rival gangs were captured 24 hours after President Nayib Bukele ordered a state of emergency. It followed a wave of gang murders that left at least 60 people dead in a single day on Saturday. The measure suspends the right to assembly, privacy of communications, the need for an arrest warrant, and the right to legal counsel. But that's not all. The president has sent the country's 70,000 gang members a tweet. Stop the killings, he says, or the prisoners will pay the price. Human Rights Watch tells Al Jazeera Bukele is in fact mimicking the conduct of drug traffickers.
What he is implementing in El Salvador is typical tactics of a mafia state, where you take revenge against other members of the family. That is obviously is not the way in a country where there is rule of law.
The former director of the Inter-American Human Rights Commission, Paolo Abrao, calls the president's actions penal populism by countering barbarism with barbarism. But Bukele is unapologetic, accusing the international organizations that sponsored a truce between El Salvador's warring gangs in 2012 for allowing them to accumulate resources, money, and weaponry. Bukele says the gang members will get limited food and have had their mattresses confiscated, and that they will, quote, not see the light of day. They'll also be confined to their cells indefinitely, except, of course, for these exhibitions designed to make it clear that he means business. Lucia Newman, Al Jazeera.
And I was like, dude, that's hardcore, bro. He was like, you're in prison for life, homeboy. And what do you call it? Here's the thing. People don't realize that tattoos in Central America don't work the way tattoos up here do. Like, let's say, gang tattoos, of course. You can be rocking a gang from any MC. Hells Angels, Mongols, Los Vagos, Outlaws, any of those 1%er clubs. You can be rocking tattoos from Bloods and Crips. You could be rocking tattoos, Sureños, Norteños, Latin Kings. You could be rocking any gang tattoo. You could be walking with them on your chest, on your back, over your face, whatever, out in the streets, showing them off. Police pass by and see you wearing that. If they don't have any reasonable suspicion to stop you, you're going to be going on your way. They can't arrest you for just having tattoos. Even if those tattoos do imply negative things, do imply that you are part of a gang, they can't just go off of that alone. That's not, they're not gonna kill you just for that. You know, they're not gonna kill you just for that. But I don't know. I'm not speaking for the gangs, that the gang members that are actually part of those gangs. I mean, they might do something, but the police won't. You know, but it's not the same way in Central America. Central America, one, tattoos are barely starting to become somewhat normal in Guatemala and Salvador and everything like that. But when you have gang tattoos, that's not allowed. That's illegal. You have gang tattoos down there, it's because you actually went through the initiation to be part of that gang. To be part of the MS-13, from what I've been reading and finding out, is one of the requirements is you have to kill somebody. Anybody. Nobody's off limits. Kill mother and her child, kill family, law enforcement, some random Joe in the street. As long as you kill somebody and you can prove that you killed them, then you'll be an honorary member of the MS-13. You have the right to get that tatted on you wherever you are on your body, your face, your back, your chest, wherever. MS-13, Marisal La Trucha, and everything. And it shows that you actually did what you needed to do to be part of that gang. Now, here's where people are kind of like, oh no, it's not great. They're arresting innocent people. Innocent people are going to the prisons also and everything. Question is why? Why are they going to prison? Is it just because, you know, President Bukele's new men and women who are fighting against the gangs who are like, hey, I don't like the color of your shirt, go to prison? Well, in some of the searches, let me see if I can post up a video. Some of the searches show them having guys lift up their shirts because they very likely searching for tattoos or guns, drugs, weapons, whatever.
Tonight, the crackdown on gangs intensifies in El Salvador.
Ese sufrimiento que le hagan a la población, lo van a sufrir ellos aquí.
As these images of mass arrests and police searching through homes and families' belongings at neighborhood checkpoints fuel concerns that human rights are being violated. President Nayib Bukele and the National Police touting the efforts on social media all week using the hashtag #WarAgainstGangs. On Wednesday, citing over 2,000 arrests made in just 4 days in response to one of the bloodiest weekends in the country in 30 years. The National Civil Police reporting 62 homicides on Saturday alone. The president sharing these videos appearing to show prison guards roughly forcing inmates to move with clubs, tweeting also that those arrested would not be freed and announcing meals for incarcerated gang members would be cut to 1 a day. This as police round up others on the street after a state of emergency was imposed on Sunday that suspends constitutional rights like freedom of assembly and the right to an attorney when detained.
So the strategy in El Salvador seems to be first they arrest, then they tweet about it, and then eventually in the future they might investigate these people. This is exactly the opposite of what has to be done under the rule of law and under basic principles in a democracy.
But Juan Papier, the America's senior researcher at Human Rights Watch, is concerned the arrests could extend beyond those involved in the recent violence.
We know of people who are not allowed to leave their neighborhoods because of checkpoints that the army has established. And we're also seeing in social media that the police in El Salvador is simply saying that they will arrest people based on their appearance.
In December, the U.S. Treasury Department said Bukele's administration provided financial incentives to Salvadoran gangs to, quote, ensure that incidents of gang violence and the number of confirmed homicides remained low. In a message to the international community this week, President Bukele tweeting that no countries have helped El Salvador in the war against gangs, adding, quote, do not come later and try to tell us what we should have done or not do.
I think Bukele is using this moment to gather more popularity. He knows that a key factor for his very high popularity rates in El Salvador is the decrease in violence, and it's also his talent for communications.
Is it working?
We don't know if it's working. We know that the violence in the country has decreased in the last 2 days, but it's impossible to tell whether this is the result of the policies by the Bukele administration.
Earlier this week, Bukele said more than 70,000 gang members were still on the streets. He now says he's asking the president of Congress to convene lawmakers to give him more legal tools to take on gangs.
In El Salvador, if you have the MS-13 tattoo, their deduction of everything is going to be like, oh, you have that tattoo? You're part of the gang. You're going to prison. If you don't, especially if you're a guy, then they're like, well, we don't have anything on you. Go ahead. Go on your way. And the whole thing is just like, why, Jesus Christ. Sorry. It's like, the whole thing is, you have mothers. I know in the Latin community, it's this way. I'm sure other communities there are. But in the Latin community, mothers love their sons. They absolutely adore their sons. And mothers who try to raise their sons right can have a really hard, difficult time or just downright don't want to accept the fact that their sons are doing something that they shouldn't be doing. And one of those things is their sons being part of a gang. And you have mothers like, my son never did anything. My son never did anything. He never do any of that. Oh my God, they arrested him for no reason, la, 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 and everything. But it's just like, then why does he have that tattoo then? Huh? If he never did anything, if he's not part of anything wrong, why does he have that tattoo? You can't really have any answer for that. And the screwed up part is, some of those guys, I'm sure some of those guys just got an MS-13 tattoo just to be tough. Just to make people believe that they're part of the MS-13 for whatever reason, to not screw with them or whatever. But it's a dangerous game. It was a dangerous game back then, and now the stakes have only been raised now. Because back then, if you had an MS-13 tattoo, you'd get killed by actual MS-13 members. Now, not only can you get killed by actual MS-13 members, you actually can get arrested and thrown in prison for life if you have those tattoos, whether you're a gang member or not. And it's insane because it's just this president was literally like, no, you guys had your chance to reform and stop. Now you're gonna do what I tell you to do. And I was like, oh my God. Let me find some other stuff. Actually, there was oh yeah, like this one right here. Look at this one.
Y la fase 4, de la cual son fruto ustedes, que es el incremento de la Fuerza Armada al doble y la incursión en los territorios de las pandillas, ahora nos permite tenerlos literalmente huyendo y escondiéndose. Ahora se esconden como ratas, literalmente. No lo digo como ofensa para las ratas, por supuesto, sino que literalmente se esconden en hoyos. Ahí vimos un pandillero escondido en un hoyo. Los que aterrorizaban a la población ahora se esconden. Y se esconden de nuestra policía, se esconden de nuestra Fuerza Armada. Y ahora tenemos los 16,000 pandilleros que ya teníamos presos en las prisiones de seguridad y de máxima seguridad de nuestro país, más los más de 6,000 que hemos arrestado en estos 9 días. En un total tenemos 22,000 pandilleros, a los que los tenemos sin colchonetas, durmiendo en el suelo, hacinados, con 2 tiempos de comida y en condiciones que estoy seguro que ninguno de los pandilleros que están afuera quieren ir a tener adentro. Y que sus amigos de la comunidad internacional, y lo digo entre comillas porque no son la mayoría de la comunidad internacional, y sus amigos de las ONGs que se autodenominan de derechos humanos, y lo digo también entre comillas porque no velan por los derechos humanos, están en contra de los derechos humanos, no dijeron nada cuando los delincuentes mataron decenas de salvadoreños, pero saltaron cuando empezamos a arrestarlos, porque les estábamos violando sus derechos. Pobrecitos los criminales. Pero si no lo hacemos ahora, ¿cuándo? Y si no limpiamos nuestro país de ese cáncer, ¿ahora cuándo lo vamos a hacer? Vamos y lo sacamos de donde estén. Proteste quien proteste. Se enoje o no se enoje la comunidad internacional, que ellos sí castigan a sus delincuentes con penas que nosotros no tenemos. Muchos de ellos tienen pena de muerte que nosotros no la tenemos. Tienen cadena perpetua que nosotros no la tenemos. Se lucran del baño de sangre que hay en El Salvador. ¿Cómo van a conseguir donaciones para venir a hacer estudios sobre la delincuencia en El Salvador si ya no hubiese delincuencia en El Salvador? ¿De qué van a servir sus ONGs si nosotros no tuviéramos problemas? Ellos necesitan que nosotros sigamos con problemas para poder seguir cobrando sus jugosos salarios. Ellos necesitan que haya baño de sangre y analizar el baño de sangre, porque de eso viven. Todas las personas que ustedes ven acá son esas 1,450 nuevas tropas que van a ingresar a la guerra contra las pandillas, gracias a la fase 4 del Plan Control Territorial. Tenemos 250 mujeres que se están graduando este día. Es el contingente de mujeres más grande que se gradúa en la historia de todo nuestro país en la Fuerza Armada. Ya vieron los nuevos vehículos que están aquí. Vienen muchísimos más de estos vehículos en camino. Vienen además otro tipo de vehículos para la Fuerza Armada, blindados también en camino. Viene más armamento, más chalecos antibalas, más cascos tácticos, drones, cámaras infrarrojas, cámaras térmicas, vehículos autónomos. En fin, si los pandilleros pensaban que enfrentaban a una Fuerza Armada armada hasta los dientes, no han visto a la Fuerza Armada que van a enfrentar de ahora en adelante.
So President Bukele, this fool, he means business. He gave phase 4 is what he calls it. Soldiers graduating, extensive training, 250 female graduates, most in the history of their country. Gives them new vehicles, new weapons, new everything. And they're like, hey, guess what? Aside from these, you're getting more. You're getting more vehicles. You're getting more guns. You're getting more bulletproof vests. You're getting more graduates. Screw these gang members. Screw the humanitarian rights people that keep crying now that the gang members are being put away because they only want money. They would rather the everyday citizen suffer in the country of El Salvador just so they can get more funding from people to come over and study the crime down here. But how are they going to get more money if they don't have any crime? So I was respect to this fool. 100% respect, because I'm like, dude, I hope other people follow this guy's footsteps, because it's just like he's so just like, I don't care what everybody says. I don't care if they badmouth me, threaten me, anything. This country means more to me than anything else, and I'm gonna make sure that it's safe once again. And look at these comments from people from actual El Salvador. Every single one of these comments just state that they're happy that President Bukele is doing what he's doing as of now, because there's areas that they could never go to before that were just filled with gang members that they can go to. There's even this one comment, I think it was a comment, yeah, where this person just says, I'm happy. There's a park here that I just saw a mom and her kids walking through at night. That's never happened before because of the gangs. And now look at them. Salvadorian citizens are saying thank you to President Bukele for doing this to the gangs.
Many Salvadorans supporting the government's move.
Lo que el presidente está haciendo está correcto.
Todas las pandillas hay que darle duro también, así como ellos hacen con la población.
You have other people like, oh my God, it's violating their rights. Oh my God, this is incorrect. You know what he says to that? Hey, shut your mouth. Do you want him? Go take him back to your country. I'll give you all the gang members we have in our prisons, and you take him back to your countries. All of them. You don't want to do that, huh? It's just like, so mind your business. And like, oh my God. Like, I just love this fool. He was like, I gotta find the quote somewhere. He was just basically, this one quote where he was just like, look at them. Back then, they were showing their tattoos as a sense of pride and accomplishment. Now that we started doing this, you know what they're doing? They're hiding every single chance they can get, trying to hide their tattoos and everything. And I'm like, this fool's literally like, man, look at them. They run away like rats. Not to be rude towards the rats, of course. It's like they just literally hide in holes. And then he posts up a Twitter post of an MS-13 member they found hiding in a hole. Oh my God. I gotta talk more about this guy because there's more stories about him. But it's just like, this dude, like, honestly, just 100% respect for having the nuts to do stuff that other people just talk about or think about. This guy literally is like, I'm about it, and he did it. And it's just like, this fool backs up his people all the time. And you have the citizens of El Salvador itself being like, I love this guy. And he just announced his re-election day on the day of Salvador's independence, like earlier this year, I think. Or the end of last year. Oh no, 6 months ago. Yeah. So what was that, like October? Yeah. So I don't know. I'm like, from what I've seen right now, it's insane. Oh, check out these videos right here.
It looks like a sea of skin and tattoos. These images, released by El Salvador's government, shows the transfer of about 2,000 inmates, stripped to their shorts and with their heads shaved, to what's been dubbed the country's new mega prison. It just opened. It's believed to be the largest prison in the Americas, with a capacity for 40,000 people, and it's the latest step in a controversial crackdown on crime that's caused the country's prison population to soar. Human rights organizations have reported that innocent people have been caught up in the law enforcement campaign. That includes dozens, they say, who have died in police custody. Last year, the country's president asked Congress for emergency powers to temporarily suspend some constitutional rights after a massive spike in murders attributed to gang crime. It includes that arrests can be made without a warrant and detainees no longer have a right to a lawyer. Private communications of all citizens can also be accessed by the government. Since then, about 64,000 suspects have been arrested. The murder reports fell about 57% last year.
Yeah, so this guy, it's dude, just awesome. 100% support this fool, man. I wish a lot of people did. I mean, it's going to be more challenging, especially in Mexico. If Mexico ever decides to do something like that, it's going to be very difficult. But it's like, what also makes it difficult is knowing that police forces and military can be very corrupt when it comes down to the cartel paying them out. You gotta, if you guys ever watched that show, Narcos, not the Mexican one, the other one, the original one. Well, in the first season to I forgot when was it? This one character really hated What's his name? What's the cartel's dude's name? He died. I remember it, but I don't know how to. I don't know. Let's see. What is his name? I'm gonna read it and I'm gonna be Pablo Escobar. God damn, I'm stupid. So Pablo Escobar. What's that dude's name who I'm talking about? Yeah, all right. The actor Maurice Comte. He played Horacio Carrillo. He played a guy in the military hated Pablo Escobar and everything that he was doing to Bolivia. So he ended up Jesus Christ. He ended up trying to bring war against Pablo Escobar and his men and his cartel movement. So one of the things that he did, just close that. One of the things that he did was he ended up putting together a special group of men in the military. Men who are incorruptible. He specifically asked for that. So whatever happens, they will never, ever bend the knee to Pablo Escobar or his men. And you gotta watch the show, guys. It's good. Well, anyways, the whole point of me telling you that, it's like, you gotta find people like that if Mexico ever decides, or Guatemala ever decides to do what Salvadorian President Bukele is doing right now for his country. It's so cool. I almost swore. It's so cool. Well, yeah. Last note, a little positive note. Last night, I finally made Guinness beef stew, and it came out incredible. I wish I took a picture of it, but I was too hungry. It was a little longer than I anticipated to finish. And I ate, and it was, oh my God, delicious. I'm gonna make it again. So, yeah. Oh man, sorry for this lengthy episode. I hope you guys enjoyed and everything. It's gonna be a real pain to edit, but excuse me, that's just how it is. All right, guys, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care of one another and yourselves, and yeah, look both ways before crossing streets. All right, later.